Morning Watch. Stay tuned, my friends. I know that there's something great in store for you this morning.
Expressed in this program and not necessarily those of Love 101 FM.
Welcome to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokely Marshall. A special welcome to our listeners on love101.org. And if you are overseas and on the move, US listeners can access us at 712-832-8001. And if you are in the UK, 0330-332-6541, or join us via the Love 101 FM app that can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. You can also check us out on, pardon me, please. We are having a moment here with the technology. You can, pardon me again, please, we're having a little moment here with the technology. Pardon me again, sorry for the delay. Oh, yes, okay, great, we are back. We do apologize to our listeners for that slight break. A special welcome to our listeners on love101.org. And if you are overseas and on the move, US listeners can access us at 712-832-8001. And if you are in the UK, 0330-332-6541, or join us via the Love 101 FM app that can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. You can also check us out on Love 101 FM Facebook and YouTube Live in the main watch. What would delay making Portmore the 15th parish, part 2? And in second watch, Canadian trucker convoys in Canada, USA, and Europe, understanding the issues and concerns. For our social media question, we ask, how effective would active protests against vaccine mandates in Jamaica be? And share your responses in our Facebook or YouTube, Love 101 FM Jamaica Live, and also WhatsApp your comments and voice notes to 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll share your comments later on in the program, but first, here's I quote.
All right, I quote, I believe we are here on the planet Earth to live, to grow up and do what we can to make this world a better place for all people to enjoy freedom. Rose Parks. That's I quote.
The late Rosa Parks. Very
Yeah, Rosa
interesting, I
Parks.
quote.
Yes, indeed. Yes,
Brother
indeed.
Rushian Douglas, how are you today, sir?
I am doing well. Looking forward to a great show this morning inside the Morning Watch.
Indeed. Indeed. The main watch will be back after this break.
Get ready for another World of Wonder Wednesdays out alive. 1 to 5 of February 23. Stick around for Pearl Blast at 2 o'clock. More prayer, more power. Till this day, we feature Nigerian worshiper Theoma at our worship party Tuesday of the day. Then at 3 p.m. exactly, Love Drama House. We continue the rerun of season one of Making Lemonade as we make way for season two. All of this and more will come your way inside alive 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. with me, your host, Sarah and the Chirpy One on the family station, Love 101.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokely Marshall. Now that the motion to name Portmore as Jamaica's 15th parish, well, had been approved, was already approved, what's the delay? And we started this discussion just a few weeks ago, on or about the 9th of February. And today we hope to come to a better and final understanding of the challenges and plans going forward. We have online today to discuss this Courtney Edwards, GLP Counsel for the Independent City Division, and Raymond Price, member of the PNP Executive Committee, both of them who make political parties. Good day, Mr. Edwards. Good day, Mr. Price. Mr. Edwards and Price, good morning to you both. Mr. Edwards and Price. Mr. Edwards, Mr. Price. Gentlemen. Not sure if we are. Mr. Edwards, you are muted. And I think Mr. Price, if he's on, he might also be muted.
The Jamaica Baptist Union presents its 172nd General Assembly under the theme, Keeping Faith with the Word in an Ever-Changing World, Embracing the Mystery, with live broadcasts on Love 101 FM and on our social media platforms. The opening service will be on Wednesday, February 23, 7 p.m. to 8:45 p.m. on Love Radio and starting at 6:45 on Love social media platforms. The speaker will be Reverend Nora Rodney. Listen for Leading the Way with Michael Youssef at 6:30 p.m. on Wednesday, February 23. Then on Thursday, February 24, the Assembly continues with another broadcast at 7 p.m. with speaker Reverend Dr. Stephen Jennings. On Friday, February 25 at 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. with the JBU Music Festival. On Sunday, February 27, listen for the service from the JBU 172nd General Assembly at 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. with speaker Reverend Dr. Robert Daly. The Jamaica Baptist Union's 172nd General Assembly, Wednesday, February 23 through to Sunday, February 27, live on Love 101 Radio and on Love FM social media platforms. Keeping the faith with the Word in an ever-changing world, embracing the mystery. It will be on Love 101, the family station.
Get ready for another World of Worship Wednesday inside Alive, 1 to 5 February 23. Stick around for prayer blast at 2 o'clock. More prayer, more power. 2:15, we feature Nigerian worshiper Sioma as our worship artist of the day. Then at 3 p.m. inside the Love Drama House, we continue the rerun of season 1 of Making Lemonade as we make way for season 2. All of this and more will come your way inside Alive, 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. with me, your host, Sarah and the Chirpy One, on the family station, Love 101.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokely Marshall. We do apologize to our listeners for those challenges we have been having so far in starting or commencing this broadcast. We are to have online, or we do have online at this time, Courtney Edwards, GLP Counsel for the Independent City Division, and Raymond Price, member of the PNP Executive Committee. The topic that we're going to be looking at is part 2 of a discussion we started on the 9th of February 2022. What would delay making Portmore the 15th parish? Good day, gentlemen. How are you both?
Good morning. Not too bad, thank you.
Okay, we have Mr. Price so far. Mr. Edwards? Not seeing him yet?
Good morning, Stokely. Good morning to your listeners. Good morning to producer Raymond Price and the speaker of Portmore and those listening elsewhere. I am doing fine.
Okay, great. So we have both Mr. Edwards and Price. Now, Mr. Price, I think we'll start with you. On the last occasion when we spoke, you made mention of the precedent or precedents for determining when a parish is to be established. And you appeared to make reference to some of the parishes that we once had, no longer have. And you were then looking at, what are the criteria that ought to be used in terms of determining whether a parish should be a parish. Now, I took a bit of a look at the history myself, and it seems to be that there is no consistent criteria, sir, in terms of naming a new parish. I mean, we're speaking of prior to our independence. But Mr. Price, in terms of the precedent, any comments you'd like to make, sir?
Right, you are correct. There are certain conventions or expectations. Three of them being the public market, the cemetery, and a hospital, right? And those are just conventions or expectations. However, a distinction is to be made when it comes to a parish court. When we had the changes recently in about 2015, where we no longer have resident magistrate court, but we now have parish court, that Act of Parliament also stipulated the nature of cases that must be heard in the parish court or heard within the parish, where in the case of a business contract where the contract was signed, or in the case of some criminal offenses where the crimes were committed. So even if there is no establishment in law that 15 criteria must first be met before you can name a parish, with respect to the parish court, there is an obligation in law, failing which we are going to have a situation. One of two things must happen. One, either an amendment to the Parish Court Act to change the requirement that matters must be heard at a parish court, whether that's a temporary amendment or they're going to repeal that act or change it altogether, is to be seen. However, just to be clear, whereas there is nothing in law that says there must be a cemetery, there must be a market, and there must be a hospital, the law of the land stipulates that certain matters must be heard in the parish where the offense has taken place.
Very interesting. Mr. Edwards, any comments?
Right. I'm happy that persons are taking a softer approach to the whole matter of Portmore being the 15th parish. However, as I alluded to earlier, that there's no such criteria, right? And of course, these are things that we'd love to see happening, right? So it says that over time.
No such criteria for what specifically?
Pardon me?
No such criteria for the court?
And other things, yes.
No, there is a criteria. Well, continue, Mr. Price.
Can I say something, Marshall? Let me make something.
You can proceed, Mr. Price.
When I speak on a program, when I interact with students at the secondary or the tertiary level, or when I'm in a community or on the ground or at the gas station and people just come up to me for a reasoning, there is one element that Jamaicans can expect when it comes to Raymond Price. Being a nerd from birth, I enjoy research and I enjoy the truth that comes out of research. Do not say to the listeners that there are no such criteria. The law of the land stipulates which offenses must be heard on behalf of Jamaicans seeking justice in a parish court. That is the law. I have gone further to say that clearly, if the intention is to establish Portmore as a parish without first establishing a parish court for Portmore, which presently
Mr. Price,
bears
I'm going to interject 1 second, Mr. Price, only because we're upon a break. Listeners, please stay with us. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
Chunky, spicy, and delicious. Lasco mackerel. Get hooked on the tastiest mackerel around. The time by Lasco mackerel is
7:15 right here on the family station, Love 101.
Sometimes the things that tear us apart are the ones that unite us and bring us closer together. Sometimes the darkest of night turns into a day so bright, leaving the scars and the pain, everything that we fear behind us. Where there is life, let's keep on dreaming. Where there is love, let's find unity. Where there is hope, keep on believing, keep holding on. So never give up through wind and storm. 'Cause after the rain, there'll be a calm. Sunshine of a new day, it won't be long. Keep holding on. A message from Sagicor.
Suzuki, I give you deals on deals. I any Suzuki where you like any type and get a lot of value with your brand new wheels. I just deals on top of deals on top of deals. Suzuki, I give you deals on deals. So here's the deal. From now until April 8th, buy a Vitara, Baleno, Carry Pickup, XL7 or any other Suzuki and get 5 years warranty, 2 years free servicing, 1 year of free insurance and gas, or $200,000 cash back plus more. No, that's a deal. Follow Suzuki Jamaica for more details. Conditions apply. Suzuki, I give you deals on deals.
Your taxes hold the key.
Get online this March 15. File and pay your final income tax return for 2021 and estimated return for 2022. All returns should be filed online and on time with many options to pay. JamaicaTax.gov.jm, direct funds transfer, NCB online banking. Be tax smart. Pay taxes your way. Tax Administration Jamaica, changing the way we do business.
I did a crazy attack. You see me, me's a real G, real go-getter. My life move non-stop. So me have to stay link and floor yard and road. My connect and one plan link me up at home with Wi-Fi and on my mobile with data and calls to any network. At my yard, non-stop streaming my vibes. I studying from a pit to them and out the road. And non-stop vibes, same way. Flow connect me non-stop for as little as $3,999 a month plus GCT. I forget it. Visit discoverflow.co. Conditions apply.
How do I love Berger? I love the colors, I love the quality, I love the way it changes a room. If painting is your passion, then Berger is your choice this Valentine's. And with 10% off, it's even better. From Berger Everglow to Berger Royale and so much more. So paint with passion and get your 10% discount at the color shop or a hardware near you. Berger, for lasting beauty and protection.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokely Marshall. We are in the main watch. The topic is, what would delay making Portmore the 15th parish? And this is part 2 of a discussion which we started on the 9th of February. We have guests, the same guests, in fact, from the previous discussion. Raymond Price, member of the People's National Party's Executive Committee, and Courtney Edwards, Jamaica Labour Party councillor for the Independent City Division. Now, just before the break, both Mr. Price and Mr. Edwards were having a little exchange in relation to the need legally for a court in the parish of Portmore if it were to be named a parish. And I just wanted to assist the discussion a little bit by referring to the Judicature Resident Magistrates Act, which still applies to parish courts, albeit that the name is now changed to parish courts for all of these relevant courts. And Section 3 of the Act is pretty specific. It actually makes reference to, in each of the 14 parishes, they are not 15 as yet, in each of the 14 parishes of the island, there shall be a court to be styled, well, it would now be the parish court for the parish of. with so many stations as may from time to time be fixed by the minister, which shall have and exercise jurisdiction by this act assigned to and conferred upon such court. So having heard that, Mr. Edwards, do you have any further comments? Because we just want to establish that legally, the parish really ought to have its own court. In fact, I'll even say this. When a person is appointed as a, well, formerly as a resident magistrate and now as a parish court judge, well, I do recall when they were appointed resident magistrates, and they would actually receive an instrument that would actually set up that they are to work in that parish as a resident magistrate. Any comments you want to make, Mr. Edwards?
It's so clear. As I was saying earlier,
yes,
I was not saying that a person who committed an offense ought not to be tried in the parish. In fact, that is the law. I was never going that route, right?
Okay.
That is what I'm in agreement with, right? I was saying, however, that we have several other objectives or objects that persons are saying that these are criteria, right? And I'm just saying, upon selecting or opting to be a parish, of course, right? These are structures that would have been put in sometime after, right? So while there is a need to have a parish court, a market, a hospital, or whatever the need may be, right? I'm just saying to you that apart from a parish court that the person would have had to try it within the parish, right? These are things that can come afterwards, and they're not necessarily.
I just want to interject one bit of caution here. I know Mr. Price may want to say something, but sir, if you have the parish of Portmore, it would not be one of the 14 parishes. So where would criminal matters for that parish and where would civil matters for that parish be dealt with?
No,
that's why I'm suggesting. That's why I'm suggesting.
I would agree that the parish needs to have a court. Don't get me wrong, you know. The parish needs to have a court, right?
And I'm suggesting that it not be done after the fact, but I don't want to belabor the point. Mr. Price, do you have any further comments to make before because I want to touch on boundaries of the relevant parish, if it were to be formed. Mr. Price?
I'll just say this quickly. The Jamaica Labour Party enjoys a significant majority in the lower house and, of course, a constitutional majority in the upper house. So my prediction is this. They will either amend the judiciary of the specific acts that you made mention of, or they will repeal it, or they will put in a temporary measure. Now, the situation is this. The government going back, or the Jamaica Labour Party going back as far as the 2002 manifesto first made mention of Portmore becoming a 15th parish. 20 years, 2 decades. Enough time was there where they could have put the appropriate measures in place. So instead of doing it after the fact, Mr. Edwards and listeners, I predict that they will either repeal or amend the act, or what I would prefer if they did was just to ensure that the new assignment of Portmore as a parish does not break any existing law. But the Parliament has the power to repeal, to make, or to change law. I'll leave it there for now.
Okay, fine. Now, I want to move on quickly to the matter of the boundaries of the parish of Portmore, if it were to be named a parish. Any comments on that, Mr. Edwards? Because that was a bit of I don't want to say bone of contention, but there was a bit of an issue there when we spoke on the 9th of February. Mr. Edwards?
Well, currently, Portmore does have a boundary, right? So anyone denying that, I don't know what is happening, because, in other words, the political boundaries would suggest that the 3 constituents of Portmore fall within a certain particular boundary, right?
So you're not seeing an issue with the boundaries then, Mr. Edwards. You're fine with the current boundaries.
No, if they are adjustments to the boundary, right, then so be it. I'm not saying personally saying that there is no boundary. There is a boundary. How are members of Parliament, right, given a constituency, a boundary line? There is an existing boundary.
Okay. So you're Mr. Price, any comments? Because you had raised something on the last occasion. You want to revisit that?
There are 3 constituencies in St. Catherine as present: East Central St. Catherine, Southeastern St. Catherine, and by the way, let me use this opportunity to express condolences to the people of Southeast St. Catherine a former member of parliament in Dr. Paul Robertson would have entered immortality on the weekend. And I know that many persons on both sides of the aisle recall the stellar contribution that Dr. Robertson made to the communities in his former constituency. And then the third constituency is Southern St. Catherine. Those three constituencies, their borders are very clear. However, there is a unique feature to Portmore, and that is that Portmore directly elects its mayor. Of the current three constituencies, only one constituency in its entirety, that is Southeast St. Catherine, has all of its ballots that are cast for its councillors also count as ballots for the mayor. There are communities in the other two constituencies, Lilliput, Limetree, Lakesbend, Clifton, and others, which the ballots that elect, for example, Gary Nicholson, not all of those ballots go in the count for Leon Thomas. The same applies for Claude Hamilton. The point, therefore, is, and it's easy to deal with, and the untidiness that has resulted is really ridiculous because, as I said, the government has a significant majority in the lower house. Just do the job and do the job neatly. Are we going to see...
What would you want to see, Mr. Price?
Well, it's simple. Either we take a decision that all three constituencies, East Central St. Catherine, Southeast St. Catherine, and Southern St. Catherine, will become the new parish, or we take a decision that only the polling divisions, where the ballots contribute to this election of the mayor of Portmore, will constitute the new boundaries of the parish. It's a parliamentary requirement.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Having heard what Mr. Price said, Mr. Edwards, do you have any comments on what Mr. Price has said?
The argument that's from Raymond, it has merit. I must agree. Right. However, the fact still remains that yes, the boundary exists, and of course, adjustments can be made based on dialogue. Right. So Mr. Price is in a position that he could have made a suggestion or made a suggestion because we were all given an opportunity to make submissions, right, regarding our input on this matter. So these are not things that we should be coming with later on in the day.
Mr. Edwards, if you send me your email address through the producer, I can send you my submission. And I don't want, therefore, to speculate that the Parliament rejected or to include the submission, because I would not so impugn the motive of the clerk of the House or her staff. But one thing I can tell you, and that's what I was saying before the break, I don't jump on programs and just speak off the top of my head.
Okay, gentlemen, we're almost out of time already, never enough time on the Morning Watch. Any concluding thoughts either of you want to leave with us, starting with you, Mr. Price, then Mr. Edwards. Mr. Price?
All right, so that parish is going to happen. The amenities are important. The one that is currently a requirement in law is a matter of a parish court, and the Parliament can make that amendment. My concern is that this thing about the development can come after. I have seen in this country, both in my active political professional life and even prior to birth, based on research, where announcements happen and manifestations come far too late. It would be good if we could have a schedule that is believable and honorable as to when the additional amenities will come forward.
I have to bring in Mr. Edwards quickly before we wrap. Mr. Edwards?
I want to pick up from where Raymond left off. Yes, a schedule would be greatly appreciated. But I want to tell the people of Portmore this. We have been given and made several promises in the past, of course, some of which never manifested. However, I want to assure the people of Portmore that we have a leader in Andrew Wellness who delivers what he promises. And in fact, the leader has committed that the next hospital will be built in Portmore. Of course, I said we would love to have a timeline that is not here as yet. However, Andrew Wallace, as our Prime Minister, has said many things, and we are seeing deliverables. He is delivering. Portmore is no different. So I want to assure everybody.
Very interesting, sir. I don't mean to cut you off, but
Yeah.
I am getting a signal. It is now 7:30. I want to thank both Mr. Edwards and Mr. Price for being with us in this first watch. Thank you for coming back, gentlemen. Thank you for your time and for your thoughts. Listeners, the morning watch will be back after this.
Now with no processing fees and no down payment, it's time to open the door to your own sweet home. The time by JN Bank is
7:30 right here on the family station Love 101.
Registration is now open for the 2022 Sagicor Sigma Corporate Run. Register now and help to contribute to another worthy cause. This year, with your support, proceeds will go towards purchasing much needed medical equipment for the Kingston Public Hospital. Register for the virtual run, March 1 to 31. The Sagicor Sigma Corporate Team Bubble Run, March 13. Or the Sagicor Sigma Invitational Run, March 20. Visit SagicorSigmaRun.com to register now. Run for the fun. Donate for the cause.
Bashco time. All the things that you need for your home, the price is so low, you would never need a loan at Bashco. At Bashco. Appliances, house with furniture and rugs, inside linens and glass and mugs at Bashco. You're shopping at Bashco. Whether the north or so in the east and the west, Bashco. Them all over, they must be the best at Bashco. At Bashco. You're shopping at Bashco. At Bashco. Giving you more.
From generation to generation, Jamaicans have depended on JN Bank to make the pride and joy of providing a safe place for their families possible. Now, with no processing fees and no down payment mortgage options, you can open the door to your own sweet home, a legacy to hand to your next generation. Visit jnbank.com to get pre-approved today. JN Bank will help you find a way.
Rio Grande to the south coast, hotel workers and man wear off boat. This a for the craft vendors, red cap porters and transportation at airports. Take a tourism pension plan, building towards the future. Tourism workers across the island, retirement benefits to contributions. Every worker in the industry, permanent self-employed contract. For your service you deserve security. Yes you do. Tourism workers pension plan, build a bright future. Yes you can. Tourism workers pension plan, workers invest through contributions. All tourism workers, age 18 to 59. Tourism workers pension plan.
Start making your contributions for a brighter future.
For further information, visit mot.gov.jm or call 876-920-4926-30.
You're invited to listen to Dollars and Cents every Thursday at 8:16 a.m. We'll give you tips on how to make your money count, how to save, and how to grow your worth. It's all inside Dollars and Cents, brought to you by BPM Financial Limited, taking you higher. That's Dollars and Cents every Thursday at 8:16 a.m. on the family station Love 101.
The program Leading the Way with Dr. Michael Youssef regularly aired Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. but will be aired at 6:30 p.m. on Wednesday, February 23 to accommodate the broadcast of the Jamaica Baptist Union 172nd General Assembly. That's Leading the Way with Dr. Michael Youssef. Thank you for keeping it locked on Love 101, the family station.
It's the last mailbox for the month, but it won't be Mentegrity Wednesday as we pause to recognize Reggae Month. We'll focus on the topic, men and the music industry, lyrically speaking. How does the lyrical content of a song affect a man's mind and behavior? How has the writing style of songs impacted society? Are male artists contributing to the crime problem, or could they be a solution? That's the mailbox this Wednesday, February 23 at 5:30 p.m. with host Kevin Bailey, featuring key music industry players as they tackle men and the music industry, lyrically speaking. That's the program designed for men, hosted by men with guests who are men. And it will be happening right here on Love 101, the family station.
Where there is faith,
The Jamaica Baptist Union presents its 172nd General Assembly under the theme Keeping Faith with the Word in an Ever-Changing World, Embracing the Mystery, with live broadcasts on Love 101 FM and on our social media platforms. The opening service will be on Wednesday, February 23, 7 p.m. to 8:45 p.m. on Love Radio and starting at 6:45 on Love social media platforms. The speaker will be Reverend Nora Rodney. Listen for Leading the Way with Michael Youssef at 6:30 p.m. on Wednesday, February 23. Then on Thursday, February 24, the assembly continues with another broadcast at 7 p.m. with speaker Reverend Dr. Stephen Jennings. On Friday, February 25 at 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. with the JBU Music Festival. On Sunday, February 27, listen for the service from the JBU 172nd General Assembly at 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. with speaker Reverend Dr. Robert Daly. The Jamaica Baptist Union's 172nd General Assembly, Wednesday, February 23 through to Sunday, February 27, live on Love 101 Radio and on Love FM social media platforms. Keeping the faith with the Word in an ever-changing world, embracing the mystery. It will be on Love 101, the family station.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokely Marshall. Let's take a look now at the newspapers to see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing. And we have here in the Jamaica Gleaner 5 changes to COVID containment measures. We also have here in the Gleaner key organizer of Ottawa COVID protests denied bail. We turn to the Observer. We have COVID relief. Jamaica has joined a number of countries around the world that have started lifting some COVID containment restrictions, and that story continues. We also have in the Observer, one moment, please. Looking at the Observer online. Oh, this is among latest news, very interesting. Trump's social media app launches year after Twitter ban. Okay, so right here as a part of the latest news on the front page digitally of the Observer. Those and many other stories in both major daily newspapers. Coming up next, we'll refill some of the feedback from our Facebook and WhatsApp question, which is, how effective would active protests against vaccine mandates in Jamaica be? If you haven't done so yet, leave your responses on our Facebook or YouTube, Love 101 FM, Jamaica Live, and also WhatsApp comments and voice notes too. 876-997-3125, using the hashtag The Morning Watch. And I'll quickly add that the feedback question is not intended to incite anything negative. It's really intended to see what the response of our listeners will be. So just as our disclaimer says, these are not necessarily the views of the National Religious Media Commission, owners and operators of Love 101 FM. The feedback question is intended to gain feedback as to how people are thinking, not intended to instigate anything. Thought I would say that. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
Get ready for another World of Worship Wednesdays out alive, 1 to 5 February 23. Stick around for Prayer Blast at 2 o'clock. More prayer, more power. 2:15, we feature Nigerian worshiper Sioma as our worship artist of the day. Then at 3 p.m. inside the Love Drama House, we continue the rerun of season 1 of Making Lemonade as we make way for season 2. All of this and more will come your way inside alive, 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. with me, your host, Sarah and the Chirpy One, on the family station, Love 101.
This Sunday, Love 101.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokely Marshall. we go straight into the second watch because I'm not seeing where there are any comments to the feedback question or any responses to the feedback question. Now, it is or was called the Canadian Trucker Convoy, a convoy of protesters, including persons who maybe here in Jamaica, we would say haul goods from one place to another, which are required in commerce. And they were joined by other persons who were concerned. The protest began with a truck convoy heading to Ottawa to oppose a vaccine mandate for truckers crossing the US-Canada border. Eventually became a broad opposition to pandemic restrictions and the government of Canada led by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. This morning, we want to understand the issues and concerns of the truckers and their supporters. Now, I will say this. The views expressed here are not necessarily those of the National Religious Media Commission, owners and operators of Love 101 FM. We are not telling listeners what to think about the matters to be discussed. We want to, however, further understand the issues and concerns of persons, including getting the views of our guests who have made time to be with us this morning and helping us to understand and give us their perspectives on the relevant issues concerning the trucker convoy. Our guests are Pastor Basil Hanson, founder, CEO, MTM TV, and he's a Christian activist. We also have online Dr. Wayne West, Chairman, Jamaica Coalition for a Healthy Society. Dr. West, Pastor Hanson.
Good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning, Basil.
Good morning, Doc. Good morning, Stokely.
Good morning to you both. Now, gentlemen, I want to quickly get into the discussion. And starting with you, Dr. West, what is or was the Canadian Trucker Convoy? What was the genesis of the protests? And I will add that most people would have heard about the Ottawa Convoy, but that was not the only one in Canada. For example, there is a news report in Global News written by Kaylin Small and Kaylee Gibson with the title, Police in Alberta's major cities warn of traffic tie-ups as convoys rolled through. It's dated February 5th, 2022, and it was updated on the 7th of February, 2022. Dr. West, your thoughts, your response.
Good morning to you again and your listeners. Good morning again to Basil. What happened is that on November 16th, I think it was, Prime Minister Trudeau announced that all truckers will have to be vaccinated. In other words, he November 19 last year, really, he indicated that there will be a vaccine mandate. Every trucker, every person who drove those big trucks taking goods between the USA and Canada, for example, and that's a lot of money worth of goods, would have to be vaccinated. The trucking industry didn't agree with the mandate, and they decided to protest. And in the way they protested, they started driving their trucks towards Ottawa, across Canada, in opposition to the mandate. So it's what started out as opposition to vaccine mandate eventually evolved into opposition not only to mandates, but to the whole way in which the pandemic was being managed in terms of the lockdowns. People thought they were losing their jobs. And then one thing led to another. It started to evolve into resistance and opposition to Trudeau as Prime Minister himself. So it started out as being against the mandatory vaccines, then evolved into being against all the lockdown and so on associated with the pandemic, and then eventually to being against Trudeau himself. So I think that's one of the ways we can look at it, how it started and what happened.
Now, what's interesting is that the persons protesting include both the jabbed and unjabbed. Any comments on that, Pastor Hanson?
Thanks for having me again, Stokely. before Dr. West said the truckers were protesting, but Justin Trudeau said the fringe minority, because he said 90%.
We're going to come to that comment shortly, but can you hold that thought? Because I do see where we are already upon a break. Listeners, please stay with us. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
All right.
Look, pan good girl, she connect with data we can't done. Hey, I'm Miata. Listen, me connect on data for days with my Digicel 7-day Prime Brata bundle. Chat to me. I have enough data can hotspot and share with the kids them or use when I'm out like no. Hey, watch good data we can't done over your son.
Connect with Brata. Data can't done. Enjoy Netflix, TikTok, Insta, Facebook, YouTube, and more on Jamaica's fastest network. Activate the 7-day Prime Brata bundle by dialing *147*7 from your Digicel phone. Digicel, better together. Made in Jamaica.
Rent, landlords, I am ready to build.
Yes, home ownership is a big deal. So move in merrily with CIBC First Caribbean. With your new mortgage, you'll get half off the appraisal cost, commitment fee, and more. Enjoy up to 95% financing and a homeowner benefits card to save at selected hardware, furniture, and appliance stores.
We move in
merrily. Terms and conditions apply. Visit CIBCFCIB.com/move merrily for details.
Attention listeners, do you want to learn how to be healthy? Then join Complete Healing Gospel Medical Missionary Training, January 28 to February 27. Learn about natural remedies for diabetes, hypertension, female disorders, kidney diseases, and so much more. WhatsApp us today for more information. 876-238-0288 or 876-781-1197. A blessing awaits you.
What a good thing to get the third party, brata.
Third-party car insurance just got a whole lot better at Key Insurance. Just add Brata to your third-party motor insurance policy and get collision coverage for your vehicle plus protection to the other driver. Request the quote online at keyinsurancejm.com or call 888-CALL-KEY. It's a third-party Brata. Extra protection, extra savings, and extra peace of mind. Conditions apply.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokely Marshall. We are in the second watch, and we're having a discussion. The topic is Canadian trucker convoys in Canada, USA, and Europe, understanding the issues and concerns. Our guests are Dr. Wayne West. He is the chairman of the Jamaica Coalition for a Healthy Society. We also have founder of MTM TV. He's also the CEO of MTM TV and a Christian activist, Pastor Basil Hanson. Now, just before the break, Pastor Hanson, you were making a point. Please continue, sir.
Yes, I was saying that
the fringe minority.
Yes, I was responding based on what Dr. West said about the truckers were protesting, and I was saying no, it was the fringe minority, because based on Trudeau, 90% of the truckers are vaccinated. Now, I am thinking when this thing started out, they said if we get to 70%, we would have herd immunity. And as things went on, there was no herd immunity again. You know, we just want to vaccinate the whole world, every single person, regardless of your health issues. So I can say that their demands were reasonable based on the information we got at the beginning, that 70% you would have been good, herd immunity. Now you had a trucking industry that has 90%. Then I don't see why. Now that calls into question, is this about our health or is this about control? I believe we are now seeing the real truth about this pandemic. Governments all around the world just want to control people's lives. This has moved far beyond health issue. It's not a health crisis anymore. It's not a health issue. It's about controlling my right to move, to do things. Just totalitarian. That's what it is.
Well, did the protest represent that persons, or do the protests indicate, because I gather that some reports unconfirmed are that there are still protests taking place in various parts of the country, and there are still issues that the government is trying to address in terms of ensuring that persons don't continue to break the law as they indicated, or as they have indicated. But do you think that the protests represent persons simply being tired of the restrictions, or you are hinting at something deeper? On what basis are you saying that persons just want to control others? Before you respond, there is a report in Britain's Mail Online, which you can locate by typing in dailymail.co.uk, and there's always the extension depending on the type of story it is or the nature of the story, that an elderly woman was trampled by police horses at one of these locations where protests were taking place. In other words, police mounted on horses are alleged to have trampled a woman, and I gather she was also disabled, or is disabled, and is of native Canadian, from a native Canadian group. Mr. Hansen, you're responding? Yes.
Well, if you were saying that maybe I'm alluded to something bigger than just
I'm asking you on what basis, because we want to be factual on the Morning Watch. So I'm saying on what basis?
Well, the basis is that there has been a lot of lies and deception. You can safely say that the goalpost has constantly moved as it relates to this pandemic.
Well, if I could stop you there, I'm not saying you're not speaking the truth, and I'm not saying that you're speaking the truth. But I'm asking this. I think the relevant authorities in various countries across the globe have indicated, look, we are learning about this particular disease. So is it that the persons were just learning more things over time, and that is why you may feel that the goalposts were being changed? Your comments, Mr. Hansen.
Yeah, but if you were learning over time, Stokely, you need to be honest with the people. But at no time anybody would come to us and say, listen, we made a mistake here. We say this was what, but then as we learn more, we had to change our position. We are really sorry for that. Nobody is saying that. All people are saying is do what we say. And if you don't do what we say, we are going to punish you. We are going to take away stuff, take away privileges from you. That's what is happening.
Interesting. Dr. West?
Well, I agree with Basil, the Reverend Hansen, because yes, if the authorities are saying we are learning, then when you learn something new, you say what you learn and you act on what you learn. Let's take, for example, the vaccines themselves. There are clips you can see of leaders in media, and the media is a part of this. We're not going to let the media out of this. The media acted like what we would call the regime media, and that happened not only internationally, but in places like Jamaica as well, in which the media would not just simply support the authorities' position. And when evidence comes out that the authorities' position is not based on sound science, like, for example, it was said, once you get the vaccine, you will never be infected. You will not be infected with COVID-19. You will not be able to transmit COVID-19. Now, we knew early on that all of that was not true. Not only are you able to be infected with the disease and transmit the disease, the duration of immunity, to the extent that you can call it, is very short. But the authorities continue to act as though these vaccines, the COVID-19 vaccine, were as good as reliable as dependable as effective as the vaccines that we use for smallpox and measles and so on. The fact is they are not. So the authorities do not acknowledge that they are not, but they continue to act as if they are. So that, when we send children to school, vaccines are mandatory. But that makes sense because those vaccines work. They are safe. They have been tested over many years. They work and so on. So it makes sense to make those vaccines mandatory. The COVID-19 vaccines do not work as efficacy. In fact, the Pfizer CEO said that the vaccines have little, if any, effect against the Omicron strain. They have side effects which the authorities refuse to acknowledge, and they want to make them mandatory. So it is one thing to say people are learning as they go along, but when people are being presented with information that everybody knows except the government, etc., who seem not to be aware and choose not to be aware, and yet still the governments are seeking to produce mandatory vaccination on the population, even for those who have had the disease, and it is established as part of the learning process that the immunity after you get the disease is better than the immunity to get vaccinated. But governments still behave as though the vaccines are as good as smallpox, they are safe as smallpox, they give you as immunity. How can you, it leads to uncertainty and people lose confidence in the authority.
Only because of time, I want to quickly indicate that in terms of Jamaica, I have seen where the Jamaican government, you may question the timing as to when it was done, but I have seen where the Jamaican government has, and give them their due, they have actually come out and indicated that there have been cases of side effects. They have indicated that the side effects may not be as plentiful as others may think they are, but give them their due, they have come out and said so. Any comments on that, Dr. West, before I ask the next question?
It is difficult to establish cause and effect with respect to harmful effects on the vaccine. But there is no doubt in even from what I call anecdote, word of mouth, I have heard of a number of persons who have had serious problems with respect to the vaccine. And let me just say up front, I am somebody who fully supports vaccination as a medical phenomenon. I think vaccines, particular vaccines, must be examined for their benefit-risk ratio. And this is what we are doing here. I know of a gynecologist, I call his name, Dr. Michael Abraham.
I'm going to ask to pause here, only because of time, Dr. West, and I need to move on to at least two more questions before we wrap. Now, the Canadian government, very interestingly, has invoked the Emergencies Act to grant broad powers of arrest, freeze bank accounts of persons protesting or who protested, and even persons who are donated money to the protesters. Any comments on this? Because the wording of the act indicates, I took a look at it, the wording of the act indicates that at least initially, these measures would be special temporary measures for dealing with the emergency and expires at the end of 30 days unless the declaration is previously revoked or continued in accordance with this act. Dr. West, Pastor Hansen, we're starting with you, Pastor Hansen, in a second or two. Any comments?
Yes. Stokely, Justin Trudeau, when asked who is his greatest admirer as world leader, and he said China. He admires China, and he has a lot of high praise for Cuba. My thing is, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. Justin Trudeau has shown the world that he's a dictator, he likes them, and he's taking Canada down that path. And unless the people of Canada...
Love 101 FM never said Justin Trudeau is a dictator.
Well, I said, yes, but the views expressed are not necessarily those of Love 101. So if we're going to speak truth, let us speak truth. It's not wasting our time. You understand? I said it, that he's taking Canada down that path because the protest in Ottawa is over, but yet still they voted for this thing to continue. And I don't understand it. Unless the people of Canada get up and decide that they don't want this, then it will go further.
Only because of time. And I do understand that the Canadian protest has inspired protests in the United States of America and other parts of the world. Italy, I saw something just this morning about what's happening in Italy, but may not be on the same scale as in Canada. But we don't want to digress. In a second or two, Dr. West, any final thoughts? Because the idea of freezing a bank account, especially as we move toward digital currency, sounds chilling. Any thoughts, sir?
That's the concern.
Well, actually, it tells you exactly where this whole concept of vaccine passports and so on are going, because it is a means of controlling people. And it is particular, and it shows up because the vaccines themselves are not particularly useful, particularly against the Omicron variant. So why are they pushing these mandates when you have vaccines that are only minimally effective?
Have to leave it there this morning. I want to thank Pastor Hansen and Dr. West for being with us. Thank you, listeners, for being with us. Join us again tomorrow as we look at other topical and controversial issues. Visit the Love 101 FM YouTube channel and Facebook page for this and all other Love 101 FM programs. Listen to us by downloading our app, and we are the #1 gospel station in Jamaica. Thanks to Kathy Gale and to our guests. I am Stokely Marshall, hanging back to Love in the Morning with Roche.
Remember, update your status in a real life. Go